Ladies and gentlemen, it is official. The Wall Street Journal reports Pentagon spent at least $1.5 million to, wait, get this, to take a selfie. Now, if this doesn't scream blatant and wasteful and a total lack of regard for the American people, then I don't know what else does. We are truly in the middle of the worst diplomatic crisis in history. And we should all feel some kind of way about this. This once great nation with our fearless leader, current commander-in-chief at the helm, and perhaps maybe just how much a two-bedroom, 160 square meter apartment is going for today in Kyiv. Because it seems like all of Ukraine gets better treatment and more financial aid and support from the US government than we all do here. You know, folks, the people who actually live in America. Maybe this is all part of their master plan on the road to total dollar devaluation, de-dollarization, as we see more and more countries around the world moving away from the dollar as the world reserve currency as the Fed gears up to unleash the new standard, CBDC. I'm slowly beginning to lose faith in our government as they contractually breach the agreement that I thought we all had a basic understanding of: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
A lot of people don't understand what counterparty risk is, but it's really simple. If you and I make an agreement, if you don't hold up your end or I don't hold up my end, then that's counterparty risk. Whereas with gold, there is no counterparty risk because you hold it and own it. It's not a contract. It's a tangible asset that also has the broadest base of buyer. Everything else is counterparty risk. Currencies are all based on the full faith and credit of the government. That's a counterparty risk. What about, well, we see what just happened with FTX, right? And the cryptocurrency debacle that's still continuing to play out, and it's like dominoes falling. But you don't have that with gold. You don't have that at all with gold. Because you hold it, it's in my possession, and for all intents and purposes, even though you can see it right here, it disappears. And we've just seen that central banks have bought more gold this third quarter alone in 2022 than they ever have in history. And again, you know, gold held at home runs no political risk because they can't see it, right? Even though it's real and it's tangible, once it's out of the system, it is invisible to them.
That's it. That's it. Time to get invisible before it's too late. And this all comes crashing down like a poorly constructed circus tent, trapping all those who are left inside watching the show and not truly realizing what is actually happening behind the curtain. The sheep who remain in a daydream-like state and continue to proceed off in herds to be slaughtered, well, may God help them all. And for those who have already woken up and are fully aware of what is happening here, I've just got one question for you. Do you want fries, tots, or a salad to go with the shit sandwich you ordered today? Now, the U.S. Defense Department has released a selfie taken in the cockpit of a U-2 spy plane as an airman flew above the Chinese surveillance balloon that was shot down by the U.S. military earlier this month. The selfie, which may end up for sale as a non-fungible token or an NFT at some point, somewhere online with an opening bid asking price of a cool 1.5 mil, shows the shadow of the aircraft on the balloon and a clear image of the balloon's payload as it crossed across the continental United States. At this time, defense officials are still analyzing debris from the suspected Chinese surveillance balloon that cost U.S. taxpayers at least $1.5 million worth of missiles to shoot down the 3 high-altitude objects, which the U.S. military now believes were likely recreational balloons, according to defense officials' reports on Wednesday. So not only is our government wasteful and recklessly incompetent, they are also making America out to be the laughingstock of the entire globe and proving just how insanely stupid U.S. intelligence and leadership is at this point. while further highlighting our shortcomings with military recruiting deficits and record amounts of soldiers exiting the military and putting a huge strain on the processing of DD-214 discharge paperwork. Now, it is like Mr. Biden is standing on the top of the highest mountain and yelling at the top of his old lungs, "Come on over here, guys. Come and get us. We are undermanned, undergunned since sending billions of military equipment and aid to the Ukraine, and you can basically come over here and pants down us if you'd like." And folks, just weeks ago, Congress and the current president agreed to an $858 billion Pentagon and war budget. Mr. Biden is officially signing off on the highest military budget the country has seen since World War II. And if that isn't alarming, then folks, stick around because it gets worse, far worse. Because about half of the Pentagon budget every year goes to corporate contractors who pay their CEOs multi-million-dollar salaries and engage in stock buybacks to artificially raise their own stock prices. And I'm not making this stuff up, folks. The Defense Department has paid out $8 billion in sped-up funds alone since the C-19 pandemic. These expedited payments were begun to cope with C-19 disruptions with $8 billion in payments made to the nation's top defense contractors, with the intent that the dollar would flow to subcontractors coping with disruptions from the C-19 pandemic. The nation's top three defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon Technologies, and Boeing, each have received more than $1 billion apiece in such expedited progress payments. Boy, I tell you what, these folks in Washington are something else, ain't they? Meanwhile, back at home, the country faces dire challenges that military spending can't solve. Ordinary folks are still struggling to pay their bills, and there's an increasing amount of alarm and concern about the rising need for a transition away from fossil fuels, which has only become more urgent since the Russian invasion of Ukraine a year ago. And the resulting energy shortages, in addition to the recent train derailment and mounting health problems in Ohio, pointing to a need for more rigorous environmental and rail protections. Ironically, or coincidentally, at the same time, schools and hospitals are struggling with ongoing staffing shortages. Yet the Pentagon and war budgets have increased by $100 billion since 2018, and it has not made us any safer. Is this really the time where we should be adding billions upon billions of tax dollars to enrich Pentagon contractors at a time when real people are struggling? While at the same time, we are continuously hearing that we can't afford programs that meet real human needs for basics like housing, food, education, and childcare? Or is the truth really that we can actually afford it, but we would have to stop throwing money at Pentagon contractors to make it happen? Please let me know what you all think in the comments. I really can't wait to read what you all have to say about all this. And I came across a list that shared several other ways $100 billion could be put to use besides funneling it into already insanely wealthy and rich contractors' pockets through back doors and loopholes. Like the ability to power every household in the United States with solar energy, or hire 1 million elementary school teachers amid a worsening teacher shortage. How about providing free tuition for 2 out of 3 public college students in the US, or sending every household in the United States a $700 check to help offset the effects of inflation? Maybe hiring 890,000 registered nurses to address shortages at hospitals, or tripling the current enrollment in Head Start from 1 million children and families to 3 million, or even better yet, providing medical coverage for 7 million veterans. I don't know. Call me crazy, but I think that there may be some folks in charge of the purse strings who don't quite have their heads screwed on tight and maybe have a few screws loose. But hey, folks, it isn't all bad, right? I mean, at least our information and data is secure. Oh, wait. Insert foot in mouth. So a recent cybersecurity threat and breach has occurred, and I guess the good news and bad news happen to both be the same. It wasn't a foreign terror attack, but instead it was all produced in-house. And the U.S. Defense Department's U.S. Special Operations Command launched an investigation this week following a report said that the unit had an exposed server that was leaking sensitive but classified emails online. I mean, we just can't catch a break now, can we? The USS OCOM is a unit within the Department of Defense that conducts and oversees special operations in branches of the military, including the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force. And apparently the open server was secured on Monday after being exposed for the past 2 weeks. Results of a security error that left the server without a password, which basically means that anyone on the internet could access the data via the server's IP address. This means that we could have easily been hacked without even putting up a fight. Just airing out all of our business in the streets for all to see and gain access to. The server since has been reported a house of massive data that contains sensitive information, including personal and health information of federal employees. This honestly just leaves me dumbfounded and with so many questions that will more than likely go unanswered, with the main question on my mind now being, what else could really go wrong next?